Today's episode of Behind the Numbers is brought to you by Hafley Flanagan. Hafley Flanagan is a full-service accounting firm that's been serving our clients since 1967. We are not your typical accounting firm. Our services extend well beyond tax and audit to include valuation services, strategic and succession planning, leadership development, and more. When you work with Hafley Flanagan, we help you realize your long-term goals. Learn more at hfco.com or call 856-722-5300.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and welcome back to the show where we dig deeper to understand what really matters most in business. And one of the things that really matters most in business is relationships. And today my guest says that we're going to be changing the way people do business. And I'm pleased to welcome Joleen Jaworski, who's president of BCA Philadelphia. Joleen, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored.
It's a pleasure, and I'm really excited about having this conversation. But before we dive into the deep end of the pool, so to speak, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what is BCA?
Oh, that's a loaded question, but I'll try to keep it simple. BCA, I'm the president and co-founder of BCA Philadelphia, and we started in 2005 with, as you just said, a very big mission to change the way people do business. And what that really means is we are trying to help executives understand the importance and the power of relationships. I mean, it's very simple. Relationships are a part of our everyday lives, but not a lot of executives look at the impact and the power and really think about the strategy behind how relationships matter in their professional lives.
And I can't wait to unpack that with you. But before we do, I know that BCA has a certain set of, we'll call them core values or objectives, mission. Why don't you just speak to that a little bit? Because I think that'll really help to put the rest of this conversation into context.
Okay. Core values. So one of, the most important thing for BCA, so you look at BCA as a business model, and then you also look at it as the holistic, relationship approach that we're trying to take. But as a business model, our core, I'll call sandbox, is really working with decision makers who have integrity, who are, ethical business owners, CEOs, C-suite executives, who understand helping people and being selfless and not thinking about themselves first. And, unfortunately, corporate America gets a bad reputation a lot of times of being unethical and greedy. And, we're kind of trying to change that narrative that you can be, as owners and C-suite executives, you can be just as successful, if not more successful, by being selfless and by being generous and helping those around you and looking at the greater good of not just society and the community, but looking at the greater good of yourself and you as a person.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I'm a big fan of The Go-Giver, Bob Burg, and Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, where he talks about how the givers actually outperform takers and matchers. So in the spirit of paying it forward and just doing the right thing, I think people generally are more successful, and there's empirical data to talk about that.
Yep.
So when you talk about relationships, I want to make a real clear distinction here, because I think you slapped me upside the head when we decided what we were going to be talking about, and I used, as you call it, the N-word, networking. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the difference between networking and relationship building.
There's nothing wrong with networking, and networking works for a lot of people, and it works at certain points in someone's life and someone's career. But there's a clear distinction. Networking, if you ask a lot of people, hey, you want to go to this networking event, they cringe up because it feels cold and impersonal, and you feel like you're just going to go to an event where everyone is trying to pass their business card and say, hey, what can I sell you today? Again, we're trying to change that narrative, and relationship building is all about, as you said, the giver's mentality. How can I give? What can I help you with? How can I help you? How can I get to know you? Right. Let me get to know you first before I even know if my product or service can be of value to you. trying to sell you something without even understanding who you are. So yeah, relationship building is very different from networking because you want to understand the other person. You want to make sure that it's not about what can I just sell you and what can I get from you.
Yeah, and I think people today, I'd like to think, let me put it that way, I'd like to think today that people are more inclined to be less transactional and hopefully more focused on relationships because people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and you've got to build that trust to develop the relationship.
I'm going to interject for a second because yes, I would hope to think that, but there's also this thing called social media and the internet and so much our lives are inundated with right now that it's a hard distinction for some people to understand what a true relationship is and what an online relationship is. Oh, I have a lot of friends. Have you ever met them? No, they're on Facebook. There's a very clear distinction between real friends, real friendship, real relationships, and we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And also, I would just add that there's no really training for this, right? So I love what you're trying to do here and changing the way people do business. But going deeper, you've got a background and you've done the work on the psychology of relationships, and I really want to talk about that with you. When you think about what are the tenets of psychology that underpin relationship development?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, it's our professional relationships and relationships within our careers are really no different than relationships in our lives and in the rest of our lives. Unfortunately, a lot of people compartmentalize and they don't think about their business and professional relationships as being the same as their personal relationships or their friendships or the friendships, relationships inside the home or stuff like that. There really is no difference. And when I started BCA in 2005, I wanted to dig into that psychology. And I read lots of journals of psychology and sociology and understanding relationships. And what I noticed is that there's a lot of, there's a thread and there's a commonality between all of it, but not a lot of people were studying the professional relationships. And again, it's the same thing. And when you look at the core tenets of any relationship, I don't care if it's your kids, your spouse, your best friend, the same things are applicable in the professional lives. I talk at colleges a lot and talk with college students, and they like this analogy. When you are out at a bar and you meet someone, how likely is a relationship to form if you jump into bed with them the first night you meet someone, or if you meet someone at a bar? It's much more likely to be a successful relationship if you actually build that relationship and get to know someone. It's just like in business. If you just jump into bed with someone, talk about networking. That's jumping into bed with someone. If you just jump into bed with someone and you don't really know them, that relationship is maybe going to be transactional for a small period of time, but the likelihood that it's going to transcend and become a powerful relationship in your life, very, very small.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic analogy and certainly relatable. When you and I were talking before we came on the air here today, you'd mentioned something about a relationship scale. Love for you to share that.
So we use the relationship scale a lot in working with our members. Again, it's like anything in life, and it's like a bank. If you don't have any deposits made into a bank, you can't make a withdrawal. Right. And that's very representative of a relationship scale. If your relationship scale is nothing but taking, and withdraws, then that scale is very off balance. And you really have not done what you need to do to make sure that relationship is going to be successful. Because if you keep taking from someone, they're not really going to want to be in that relationship anymore. Right. You want to make sure that you are giving, that you are asking how you can help them, so you keep that scale. It's also important to be self-aware of that scale. A lot of people think that what they're doing may be of benefit or maybe a deposit for someone, but it might not be from their side. So being self-aware, or having that, if you have that relationship, have the open conversation about what's beneficial to you. If I'm trying to help you with things, but you're just like, oh, you know what, that's not really helpful to me. It's not something it's more work for me than anything, or that's not the type of person I'm looking to meet or a person I'm trying to, do business with, then that's not really a deposit.
Right.
So having that conversation so you can be self-aware of that scale.
Great. Joleen, for folks who are watching, listening, want to learn more about you or BCA, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Okay, so I said we're in this hyper-connected world, this hyper, world of social media. And so it's really easy to get in contact with me, as it is with everyone these days. BCAproud.com is our website. That is, I personally monitor anyone who goes on our website and looks at fills out the form for contact us. So BCAproud.com is clearly the easiest way to get in touch with me. But I'm also happy to provide my personal email address and personal phone number. Again, I personally take every call, every email that comes in. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not too much on other social media platforms. I'm again kind of the anti-social media, but I am on LinkedIn, so obviously you can connect with me there as well.
Sounds good. And BCAproud.com. Joleen, don't go anywhere. We have to take a quick break. For you watching and listening at home, don't go anywhere either. We'll be right back on Behind the Numbers.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede moverse, pero existe otro síntoma de ataque cerebral que muchos de nosotros no vemos. Se llama negligencia espacial y puede ocurrir durante o después de un ataque cerebral, causando movimientos visuales distorsionados. Afortunadamente, existe una solución que utiliza tecnología óptica basada en prismas durante la rehabilitación. Si usted o su ser querido experimenta un ataque cerebral, pregúntele a su doctor sobre la negligencia espacial. Encuentre más información en kesslerfoundation.org.
Weeds. I have you surrounded. You just gonna stand there? Or are you gonna take your lawn back?
We're gonna take it back.
We're gonna take it back.
With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, it gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and keeps your lawn growing strong. Glorious!
No.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed.
Feed your lawn.
And Doug.
Hey, man. Nice base. Clearly you're a safe driver. You could save hundreds for safe driving with Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Woo! We gotta go again.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I learned how quickly everything can be taken away. 1 minute, I was playing college football. The next, I was paralyzed. I'm Eric LeGrand. I believe I will walk again, but also know what I can do now. I'm applying my love of the game as a sports broadcaster and inspiring others along the way. Only my abilities matter. Visit Kessler Foundation on Facebook and tell us your abilities. And go to KesslerFoundation.org, where only abilities matter.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede moverse, pero existe otro síntoma de ataque cerebral que muchos de nosotros no vemos. Se llama negligencia espacial y puede ocurrir durante o después de un ataque cerebral, causando movimientos visuales distorsionados. Afortunadamente, existe una solución que utiliza tecnología óptica basada en prismas durante la rehabilitación.
And welcome back to Behind the Numbers. I'm still Dave Bookbinder, and this is Joleen Jaworski, who is president of BCA Philadelphia. And Joleen, we were wrapping before that commercial break. You were talking about self-awareness and making deposits, because you really can't make withdrawals from that network or relationship bank account unless you've made the deposits. Talk a little bit about how we can be more intentional in defining what a good deposit looks like.
Again, as I was mentioning, good deposits are relative to who that person is. Also, people's lives change over time, and a deposit that you made 10 years ago might not have as much value as a deposit in their life today. But deposits can look a lot of different ways, and the Rolodex, if those exist still today. Looking at your Rolodex and seeing if there's a referral or a lead you can give someone isn't always the only deposit, isn't the only deposit that exists, and it isn't always what someone's looking for. Maybe someone's got all the business that they need, but they're looking for someone to help them structure their business, put some operations into place. Sometimes people just, maybe their child is about to go to college and they're looking for someone who can really help get them into a particular school. A lot of us are very philanthropic. A very large deposit for some people is supporting philanthropic needs, supporting financially or volunteering. So deposits can look so much, so different. We call it currency, everyone's got different currency. You might not possess the currency of a large Rolodex, but you might possess other currencies. Maybe you have, we were talking about Dave Gill earlier. Dave Gill has that currency of understanding tax laws that no one else understands or wants to understand. So, that's a big currency for him. He can give a lot of advice and, he can really help people when it comes to, tax laws and tax regulations.
Yeah, Dave Gill is a tax partner at Hafley Flanagan. He's now referred to as Dave Hollywood Gill after his appearance on this program. He'll thank me for that later, I promise you. When you talk about these deposits and understanding people, Brene Brown talks also about this idea that the small moments count. And you had said something at the break here about the little pings or the small pings matter.
Yes.
Can you share that with the audience?
They matter a lot. And, especially when we're looking at managing hundreds of relationships in our lives. Some more important than others, which is another thing we talk about at BCA is that, the level of relationships. Not everyone is going to be a level 5. That's your spouse, that's your best friend, your brother, your sister, your parent. Not everyone's going to be a 5. Right. So the majority of your relationship, usually about a 1 or a 2. But how do you manage them? And managing them can be through small pings. You're not going to have enough time to sit down one-on-one, which is, really where the meat and magic comes from. But you can't do that with hundreds of relationships that you're trying to maintain. So small pings. We use gifting a lot, the term gifting. Gifting doesn't mean physically giving you a gift. Gifting could mean a ping of, I just read an article and I wanted to, I thought of you. So I wanted to forward you this article because I think it would be helpful, based on what you were telling me last time we talked. I thought this might be helpful. So pings like that, pings just like, hey, you were telling me about your son or daughter who's trying to get into college. How's that going? Small pings, text messages, phone calls. Those are really easy ways to maintain relationships without taking up too much of your time.
Yeah, great advice. The little things do matter. Mm-hmm. So we only have a limited amount of time in this program. I wish I could spend hours here with you on this. But I want to take some practical advice now for the audience, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Because inevitably, folks watching and listening are going to be going to a networking event. They're going to go in, they're going to walk into a room like I did a few weeks ago with 80 people or more. Give us some advice as to how to attack that. What do we do when we walk into an event like that?
So my biggest advice, and I was actually going to share this, you were talking about one of the interns at your office. I had the same question from one of my interns a number of years ago. The best advice I can give anyone is go in and ask questions. You immediately shut down someone's guard when you start asking questions about them. The intern you were speaking about and my intern a couple years ago, the same thing. They were very nervous about going into a professional networking event or going into any kind of professional event. I'm so nervous. What am I going to do? Again, my advice is you approach someone, start asking questions. People love themselves. People love to talk about themselves. So the first thing you should do is start asking questions about them because it disarms them. Most people are not used to being asked about themselves. They're used to someone coming up and saying, hey, can you buy something from me? What can I sell you? So you disarm them by starting to ask. And that's also the first step to building a relationship, getting to know someone. Ask questions that have nothing to do with business, their business, your business. Where do they live? What do they like to do? What are some of their hobbies? That's so disarming to people in a networking environment.
Yeah, and it's great that you talked about asking great questions because I came at it exactly from that same lens, so it makes me feel better that I'm doing the right thing here because I'm talking to an expert in this. But I said, come at it with, genuine curiosity to learn about the person you're talking to.
Yep.
Don't go in with expectations about selling.
Yep.
Come in with the idea of giving, but more importantly, just have a conversation. And then the real magic will happen if there's a connection. The real magic will happen at a one-on-one follow-up meeting, outside of an office environment, breakfast, lunch, coffee, what have you. So let's talk about that, right? So the gold is in these one-on-one meetings, because that's when you can really go deep.
Yep.
So help the audience understand what should we be doing when we're sitting there one-on-one at the diner having breakfast with someone we just met at a networking event.
And you just said it, it's genuine curiosity. Understanding who that person is. It's impossible to give them something, sell them something, or presume that you could help them if you don't even know what they need, or what they're trying to accomplish. Do you have the assets to be able to help them? So it's really about getting to know them, what's going on in their life. If you are focused on getting a business transaction, understand the breadth of their business, understand what's going on in their business, what are the challenges that they're experiencing. Once you understand that, then you can look within yourself and say, is my product or service something that could actually help them? And it's very hard for people to say to themselves, I'm not sure if this product or service is going to be of benefit to them. But if you do that and you actually are honest with someone and say, I'm not sure if I could help you at this time, you're only building your relationship with that person. They might then introduce you to somebody else who can use your product or your service. So it's more about understanding who they are, what their challenges are, and then really introspectively looking at, can I really help them or not?
Right. And the other thing that I shared in that conversation yesterday was that when you're in that moment, by being genuinely curious and building that rapport, even if this person isn't a good business fit for one another, but you've done the right things for them and they have a whole network that they could open you up to.
Yep.
And you have an opportunity to either blow it by disengaging because you think they can't help,
yep,
or really moving the ball forward because you're curious.
Yep.
Joleen, tell the audience how they can connect with you if they want to learn more about you or BCA.
Go to bcaproud.com. There's a contact us form. I personally monitor all of those requests that come in on bcaproud.com. LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn, so you can certainly connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I've done that. You should definitely do that too.
Yeah.
So Joleen, today's episode is sponsored by the accounting firm Hafley Flanagan, and I understand you've been a client of the firm, is that right?
I have been a longtime client of the firm, and we do a lot of work together, not just as clients, but in the community, and they're an incredible, incredible firm and incredible people.
Anything that you can share with the audience about Hafley?
They are not your typical accounting firm, and which we love. They are actually accountants who have personalities and aren't afraid to let those personalities come through. They are authentic people. I started getting to know Hafley almost 20 years ago when Tom Fee was her managing partner. And if Tom Fee wasn't the epitome of personality in life, I don't know who was. And then obviously now working with Dave Gill and Jim Rogers, just every single one of them are genuine people who care about my business more than just being my accounting firm. They want to see my business succeed, and they have incredible advice to help me manage my business more than just my books.
That's fantastic, and I've heard that recurring theme. And it's funny you mentioned not your typical accounting firm. When you watch this episode when it airs, and you see the sponsorship reel that runs in the front of this, that's what it says. So I'm thrilled to hear that they're living their brand.
Yeah,
that's authentic.
Yeah.
I know we're getting close to the end here in the program because it goes fast, but I want to talk to you about the deposits you're making. So you're building the value of that currency in the account. When is it appropriate to start asking for things and making those withdrawals? How do you know when you've gotten to that spot where you're now permitted, entitled to do it? How do you earn it?
If you are building the relationship the right way, you should never have to ask.
You got to say more. Don't leave us hanging there. I get you, but you got to say more.
If you've done the right things and you've properly educated, not sold, you've gotten to know them, they are your friend now, and they're going to want to support you and help you. So if they know what you do, now yes, there's a lot of people who say, oh, I want to be asked, I want them to ask for my business. So yeah, there's a certain gray area where you have to ask in a certain way. But if you've built that relationship in the proper way, you should never have to ask. That person should know what you do and want to work with you because they trust you and you've earned that trust in that relationship.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And to your point, you're doing the right things and making the small pings to try and stay top of mind. And it's so hard to be thinking of everyone every day and every moment. So circumstance comes up where someone approaches you, for example, and says, hey, Joleen, I see you're connected to so-and-so. Can you make an introduction for me? I want to share just a quick anecdote with you. I had a one-on-one meeting with someone a few years ago after meeting them at an event. Didn't know this person from Adam, was going to get to know them. They showed up with a list of 25 CFOs that were in my network and immediately asked me to make introductions to them. Wrong on so many levels.
Yes, very wrong. I mean, that person clearly had not earned your trust yet.
Correct.
This is your first meeting with them. I personally have no issue saying that to someone. I'm sorry, this is my reputation on the line. If I'm going to introduce you to someone, I want to make sure that I know who you are, that I trust you enough that I'm going to put my reputation out there to introduce you to someone in my network.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. I took the opportunity, figured, look, I can play it one of two ways, but I can educate this person and help them learn from it. And I explained that, first of all, I don't know you. We've got to go there. But secondly, what you offer business-wise, you'd be thrilled if I gave you 25 CFO introductions. But how would my CFOs feel if they got the introduction for what you're offering? Not really a great fit. Yeah. So Joleen, we're just about out of time here, but I want to give you the last word in the program and offer any other practical tips, advice, anything actionable that you'd like to share with the audience that they can take away today and use.
One of the things that we talk about a lot at BCA is common bonds. So, we were talking earlier about having, what does that one-on-one look like? Find a common bond. That's also something that's going to propel a relationship forward. So if you only have one common bond, and we say, within BCA, if BCA is your only common bond, the fact that you're both BCA members and you're sitting down, great. That's the first step. That got you to the table. When you're together, find those additional common bonds. Do you both like to run? Do you both enjoy smoking cigars? Do you both enjoy a good bourbon? Do you both enjoy, boating? Whatever that common bond is, it's going to propel that relationship forward outside of the initial common bond that brought you together. And that's how relationships sustain. You think about, again, your personal life, your spouse, your kids. You have more than one common bond. You do things together. You find things that brought you together, and obviously that's what helped strengthen that relationship. It's the same thing in professional life. Find those common bonds. Those common bonds are really going to help, again, propel and push that relationship forward.
Couldn't agree more. And those common bonds are what's going to lead you to get invited to more things and become exposed to more and more interesting people.
Yep.
Joleen, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I can't thank you enough for joining us today here Behind the Numbers.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's been an honor.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. We have been talking today with Joleen Jaworski, president of BCA Philadelphia. And today's episode of Behind the Numbers has been sponsored by Hafley Flanagan. I want to give them a big shout out and say thank you for sponsoring Behind the Numbers. And as you heard here today, and as you've seen on the video, they are not your typical accounting firm. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and I'm the one that my clients turn to when they want to know what their most important assets are worth. If you're a business owner and you don't know the value of your business, we should probably have a conversation. So please hit me up on LinkedIn. That's all we have for today, folks. We'll see you next time on Behind the Numbers. Take care.